Hello, this is my review and showcase of Lesson 2 of the free online learning resource Drawabox. I've linked to the website in the description below. This course aims to help you improve your fundamental drawing skills. Lesson 2 comes after Lesson 1 obviously, and the 250 box challenge. I'll link to my reviews of those parts of the course below as well. I will say Lesson 2 felt like a real step up from Lesson 1 as it progressed. Lesson 1 and 2 together make up the basics section of the course, so I expect moving forward Lesson 3 will be even more challenging, as it's really the beginning of the bulk of the course. I'm at the start of part 2, which is constructional drawing, which runs through lessons 3 to 7. Exercise 1 was called organic arrows, and organic arrows felt like a gentle ease into Lesson 2. It tricked me as the difficulty really ramps up a few exercises in. The aim is to get used to the idea of 3D space and depth you can create on a page. You draw the arrows with a smaller width further back and a larger width closer to the viewer to give that illusion of the end of the arrow being further back in the scene. The shadowing emphasises the overlapping of the shape. You start out with 2 pages of these arrows, which really warms you up into Lesson 2. The next exercises are contour ellipses and contour curves. After the arrows, you move on to drawing these cute little fat sausages in the contour ellipses and contour curves exercises. The focus in these exercises is introducing us to contour lines and how these lines help us understand how what we are drawing exists in 3D space. It helps stop the image looking flat by making it look more 3-dimensional. On these little sausages, you start out drawing full contour ellipses and then move on to just showing the curves that are visible in the front. The next exercise is texture analysis. After those cute little wormy sausages, it really dumps you into texture analysis, and this is the first time I've thought, wow, this is going to be challenging. The aim is to get you to observe and study a reference image in detail to better help you transfer that visual information to the page in a more deliberate way. It focuses on shadows as a way of defining the shapes of your drawing rather than drawing outlines. You start out with a study and written observations, followed by a gradient transition of the texture. The transition gradient seemed particularly daunting and was what I actually found the hardest. Starting with a crumpled paper really knocked my confidence as well, as I just felt like I wasn't getting it. I was understanding the basics of needing to draw the shadows instead of the shapes, but it just didn't resemble crumpled paper on the page to me. I moved on to crocodile scales, which I found a little more engaging, and then I drew mushrooms for the final study. After writing my notes, the transition gradient was a real challenge. Starting from that thick line of darkness just didn't gel in my brain. The crumpled paper one frustrated the hell out of me, and then when I looked at the scales, I felt stumped, so rather than just stopping and quitting, I picked a different texture, a knitted jumper, and actually found creating a gradient from darker to lighter shadow a little easier with that texture, and it actually resembled what I wanted it to. So I did the texture gradient for the mushrooms and then quickly moved on to the next exercise, because honestly this one was knocking my confidence. The next exercise is texture dissections. Now, reading the material and watching the demonstrations looked quite intimidating, but much more exciting to me than the texture analysis did. You draw more sausages with contour lines, and then you fill the dissections with loads of different textures. The aim is to continue to improve your observational skills. You do 2 pages of these texture dissections, and my first page started out as all food items. I tried to have the light source aimed at the centre of the little sausages. In a few that wasn't as apparent, such as for the cabbage, but for a lot of them I feel like that came across, like on the peanut, the corn, the strawberry. I really enjoyed doing the broccoli as well, weirdly enough. It really made me feel inspired, especially considering that this is all just black pen. I used a black brush pen for the shadows and a black fine liner for the rest. The second page was a little more challenging than the first, as I felt like the food textures are just more familiar objects and therefore easier to observe and draw. This page is mainly animal-based textures and textures found in nature and outside, such as shells, trees, bricks. Again, I tried to remember that my light source was shining central on the little sausage, which was easier to achieve in some textures than others. I really like the elephant skin one and the shells one, but the scale and the thorny branches weren't quite what I was hoping for. But really, overall, this exercise really boosted my confidence after feeling a bit deflated after the texture analysis page. So yeah, I really enjoyed these despite completing most of them in the waiting room for various hospital appointments. After the texture exercises, the website introduces you to construction, which really is the bread and butter of the rest of the Drawabox course. In constructional drawing, the aim is to help you observe your subject, break it down into simple components, and then see how these interact in 3D space before constructing these simple components or forms on the page to act as your foundation or scaffolding for the image you're trying to create, before finally building up the complexity of the image in several passes. It then takes you straight into the form intersection exercise. Now, after the high of the texture sausages came the blow of the form intersections. This is the first exercise where I thought, my brain is broken. I can't actually see how to do this. The aim of this exercise is to continue to develop your understanding of 3D space and how forms exist in relation to each other in that space. But here, how they are interacting with each other. For the first page, it says to start out with overlapping boxes, which I just could not get my head around on how to intersect. So after drawing them all overlapping on the page, I moved on to the second page, which is other shapes. And on this second page, I actually found it much easier to start intersecting the shapes. The circle and the cylinder in particular helped my brain finally understand where the line should be when the shape is cutting into another one. Like pushing the end of a pencil into a ball of blue tack and imagining the end inside of the blue tack out of sight, if that makes sense. I actually found boxes the hardest to intersect, as they often intersect over several corners. Drawing the hashed lines to indicate a face also helped highlight the illusion that was being created. By the fourth page, I felt like it had clicked and I was feeling a bit better about it. The final exercise is organic intersections. Back to the sausages. In these two pages, you drop these little sausages on top of each other to try and show them sort of smushing down over each other to create the illusion of a little sausage pile. The aim being looking at how forms again relate to each other in 3D space, just in a different way than intersecting. You also add shadows on them and on the ground, which again helps concrete them as forms in 3D space. Page 1 I felt had too many contour lines, so on the second page I did less. Overall, it was a really fun little wind down lesson after some really challenging middle exercises in lesson 2. I'm really looking forward to getting started on lesson 3. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one.